So, Kathy, you seem to think that the 19th Amendment was simply recognizing something that was always there that the government failed to recognize for the first, what, 150 years of the nation, and that, according to you, the founders wanted one person, one vote. If that's the case, why didn't they set things up that way?
Well, I mean, why didn't they free all slaves when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution?
Ah, told ya. Told ya.
It. However, they wrote a document that is the greatest political document ever written. And I believe what we have experienced over the past 250 years is this long march towards fulfilling the promises that were found in the Declaration of Independence. And that is that all men are created equally and that God has endowed all of us with certain rights, and even to the slave as well as to women. That is the right to life, the right to freedom, and the right to be able to pursue whatever form of happiness that I want.
Then why didn't they grant all men the vote? Why was the nation founded with only a small percentage of even white men voting? If
Yeah,
they truly believed all men, if in other words, we're arguing over what those phrases mean, right? Because we don't agree on what they mean. I don't think they meant every single individual person should have equal political enfranchisement. To say that all human beings are created in the image of God and have equal dignity before the Lord is certainly different than saying every single person should have a say in the governance of the nation. If they believed that's what it meant, why didn't they set it up that way from the outset?
and again, I'm sure you probably know this, that one of the requirement for people to vote was back then in that time was whether or not you own property or
Hmm.
land. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, so if we're going to take away a woman's right
Hmm.
to vote, why not take away the right to vote of those who don't own land? And after
Oh,
we take away their rights, I mean, should we also rescind the 15th Amendment that gives the right of people to vote? No, it becomes a very slippery
I told you. It's just gonna be about I knew it. I knew it.
auto pen in their hand that they get to make up the rules on who gets to vote. Because at that point, you're no longer living in a republic. You're now living in Banana Republic. You're now living in
well,
Venezuela, right? And
right
now we're
now,
walking around
right
saying, "Como
now,
estas?"
But right now, we're not living in a representative republic. We are living in a universal suffrage democracy, which is not what the country was founded to be. That is not what the framers had in mind. And if it was, they would have set it up that way, but they didn't. We had extremely limited suffrage for most of our history. We had things like poll taxes, literacy taxes, religious exemptions. Some places you had to maybe be a firefighter or do some kind of civic duty first, land ownership. You had to be much older. The voting age wasn't 18 until recently either. The founders set up the nation with all kinds of restrictions on suffrage. It was never meant to be one person, one vote. That's
Right.
clear. That's clear because it never was until very recently. And what you're describing is a movement not toward tyranny, or not a movement away from the tyranny of the founders towards something better. What you're describing is a movement away from the founding of the nation, which was conservative and a representative republic, and the progressives progressing toward a universal suffrage democracy, which has resulted in tyranny. We do not have the freedoms we had at the founding. We pay the taxes we pay in this country would have the founders rolling in their graves, just as one example. So I'm wondering, again, you've kind of described like, oh, I'm thinking that this is what they wanted all along. It just it's taking us hundreds of years to get to where they really wanted us to be. Do you have any evidence to support that the intention of the founders was to have universal suffrage?
No.
Allow me to say
No.
that a couple of
She
things.
doesn't.
One,
No.
I when I was
No.
working as Vivek Ramaswamy's national grassroots director, one of and as his advisor, one of the things we talked about, and he became perhaps the first modern day president under my lifetime, anyway,
It wasn't a
to
president.
actually say that perhaps we shouldn't have universal suffrage, which is very different from what you and I are here talking about. You and I are here talking about whether or not women should be allowed to vote specifically. Now, what universal suffrage, however, yeah, I agree with you that, and Vivek put it out there. We talked about it as a team and we agreed with that, that perhaps, those who are graduating from high school, perhaps they do need to do either take the civic test that that most people have to take when they want to become a legalized citizen in our country and pass that test, or
She gave up all objections with this argument, by the way. She just gave up all objections.
for the military. I'm not here to
Mhm.
argue against that. What I'm specifically here to talk about is, whether or not women should be allowed to vote. And I stand by what I said. Now, is it hard? Yeah. But you know what? The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. So I agree with you. We are a long way from even when I was born. I mean, who would have ever thought we would, be talking about two men, renting the womb of another woman to produce a baby is a family, and we're okay with that, and designer jeans. No, yes, I agree with you on that as well. We have gone a long way from what is moral, what is good, what is right. But I'm sure you probably are aware of this, but John Adams also said that the Constitution is made only for a moral and religious people. It is completely inadequate for any other kind of people.
Has nothing to do with the debate.
Would probably agree that, well, what is moral? It simply means people who know the difference between right and wrong. People who know the difference between up, down, a boy and a girl. You're right. Like that's where we are right now. That we're supposed to pretend we don't know the difference between a boy and a girl. So you're right. I truly believe that our nation is in trouble and that we're skating on the precipice as a country when you can't even determine what is a boy, what is a girl, where the Constitution is at stake. But again, I go back to, as I said in my opening statement, that the answer to a manipulated or ignorant or moral or immoral group of people is not stripping away rights that the government didn't give in the first place, but it is for people like you and I to go out into the marketplace and start persuading better, teaching better, organizing better, right? So that's
you
what
don't
I agree with.
So you don't seem opposed theoretically to limiting suffrage. You conceded that there could be cases where maybe we should, and that we need to talk about why we would want to limit women's suffrage specifically. And then you brought up rights. And so let's get into rights. It would be my assertion, and I think this is irrefutable, but we'll see what you think. Isn't it the case that any notion of women's rights is granted and enforced by men at their behest? Do women have rights if men do not grant and enforce those rights?
Of course we have rights, whether they grant it or not.
Okay,
And
so
I said that in my opening statement, that
so
these
if
rights already existed.
if President Trump signed an executive order tomorrow rescinding women's rights, just saying, we're going to repeal this 19th, and that's that, what would women do about it?
Well, what did the people at the Boston Tea Party do about it in 1773?
Those were men.
Well,
because
men
they believe, because the
about it, but
American Revolution that
women
sparked the
didn't,
nation.
but women didn't go to the Boston Tea Party and start throwing.
That's not true. Have you
fields.
ever been? Have you ever been there? Have you ever
women pick
seen
up
any of the
muskets
documentaries?
and
Women
fight the
were there as
revolution?
well. Women were there as well. Listen, you and I are not
Well,
going
being in
to
the audience is
disagree.
not the same thing as
You
leading
and
the
I are
revolution.
not going to disagree, Rachel, that women are not men. I agree. Women are not men.
Right.
And I said it before it became cool to say it, right? And you and I are not going to disagree that I cannot do what Jake can do, right?
Yes.
I cannot do what my son can do or my husband can do, right? So I'm not here to argue that women and men are interchangeable and we're just widgets. I don't subscribe to that. My entire life has been against the baked in lies of feminism. Hold on, I think
sure. But as it applies to what we're talking about right now, when you say we have these inalienable God-given rights, I would say, actually, God did not put in the 10 commandments, thou shalt let women vote, or everybody gets to vote, right? These are new, as I said in my opening, these are new post-enlightenment ideas that everyone is equal in every single way. And what I'm saying is that why should women have the same political power as men when we do not have to register for the draft when we turn 18 like a man does? We cannot this was a main argument of the anti-suffrage women, and maybe if you read my book, you know that only about 4% of women strongly supported suffrage in the beginning, and women voted against having the vote so often that the women's suffrage associations stopped letting women vote on whether they wanted to vote, because the women kept saying, no, we don't want to be a political power block. We don't want to be involved in politics. It's dirty, nasty stuff. We have our own sphere of influence, and that's where we belong. They argued that women cannot protect the borders. They cannot build and maintain the infrastructure of this nation, and they cannot go to war to defend our country. So why should we have equal say in those matters with men?
So if a man becoming capable of defending the border or going to war, should
Bad
we also
argument.
strip him of his right
Knew
to
that that
vote?
was where
Is
that
it
was
based
Yeah,
going to
this
on
go.
is
that? No, I don't think it's
this
based
is
on
a
that.
really well. This is
Bad argument.
a lot.
Rachel,
Okay,
in order to
sure,
have
go
a
ahead.
conversation, we have to go
Sure,
back and forth.
sure, go
So
ahead.
because you just asked,
Mhm.
some pointed questions, and again, I have to go back to you said, that thou shalt vote is not in the Ten Commandment,
Yeah.
but who don't vote? I mean, what group of people are ruled over and don't have a say in anything and just have to do whatever the king or their owner or their master tell them? God did not create me to be a slave. And so, and our founding fathers recognized that there is a God in heaven who has made all of us equally. Not that all of us, there is a hierarchy. I do believe that. I'm all about Ephesians, right? And so, however, there is a God who has created us to have certain rights. And again, the right to live, the right to have freedom, and the right to pursue my life in the manner in which I deem I want to pursue that life. And now the government's role, they were very clear in the Declaration of Independence that became the framework for the Constitution. The government's role is not to give me rights. The government role is to, one, secure those rights. But in order to secure those rights, the government has to recognize that I have these rights, right? And that the government derives its power from the governed. Now, if the American Revolution was launched on the belief that, for example, taxation without representation is tyranny. And so if we now rescind the a woman's right to vote, are you also proposing that I no longer have to pay federal income taxes? Is that the quid pro quo that's on the table? Because if that urge that if I
What?
have no say in how I'm being represented, then I don't want that kind of government. And in fact, it was a strong enough urge that caused the colonists to go into a very violent
What?
assault
What is she
on
talking about?
England. And so if that principle applies to men, why doesn't it apply to women? Because by 1913, women were being taxed without the ability to have a voice in the government.
Okay, so there's a lot that I think we should kind of try to keep our back and forth a little bit briefer, just so that we're not monologuing to the point where we have 10 points to address back and forth. It might be a good idea, but
I will
first,
agree with that if you do too.
yeah, first you didn't address my point about women's rights are, I mean, this is something people don't like to confront. They don't like to hear
Okay.
this because we've had 100 years of feminist propaganda telling us otherwise.
Hmm.
Women don't have rights unless men grant them to us and enforce them on our behalf. You and I, Kathy, are not going to rise up and physically take back our rights if they are rescinded. And I can give you examples of this from all around the world. But we also have an example right here in the United States, where in the state of Utah, women were granted, it was the second state to give women a vote when it was still a territory. And under the Edmunds-Tucker Act, that right was taken away in the 1870s, I believe. And so women in Utah had the vote for a couple decades. It was taken away for about 50 years before it was granted again in the 1920s. So this idea that once the government says you have a right, that you're always and forever going to have that is silly. We saw this with Roe v. Wade and women losing their minds over the men grant rights to women. And because of that, because men are the ones who build and maintain this country, they defend its borders, they fight and die in wars, they are obligated by law to sign up for the selective service, and women are not. Why do we deserve equal say in how any of that goes? We cannot I don't think women should be telling men how to build and maintain the country, how to defend the country, how to enforce its laws, because we cannot do those things. And now, can you
Okay.
answer specifically just to that portion of my argument?
Yes.
And we want to keep it a
Sorry.
bit more brief here, guys, with the
Yes.
answers. And otherwise, if it's not brief, we're going to have to do the like 1 minute or 2 minute monologues back and forth.
I
But
agree.
yeah, let's try and just try and address the questions. Go
Okay.
for it.
Okay. I wrote down a little bit of what you said. You said a lot, but I wrote down as much as I could. Your question is men grant rights
Mhm.
and
And they enforce
women and if and women cannot do anything, like cannot, uprise against. I mean, you said if and a woman cannot rise up and defend those rights
Correct.
Right.
or the recension of those rights.
Right.
And so again, the fallacy here, are you saying, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on
Sure.
what you're saying. So you're saying that if I cannot rise up and defend those rights, then I don't have those rights.
Yeah.
I'm saying that as
No,
a
I mean,
group.
I mean, to Jake's
Yeah.
point, just yes or no. I mean, is that true?
No, that's
Because
so what
that's
you're
what you
missing
said.
is
I wrote it
what you're
down.
what you're
Do you want to
missing
just
is
elucidate
that
the point? Yep.
yes,
Yeah.
men as a whole, as a group, we rely on them to enforce any rights we have. We can't enforce rights on our own behalf. So we are
Really?
asking and petitioning men for those rights, and those men, benevolent as they are, grant them and enforce them on our behalf.
And so allow me to ask. So you said men grant us these rights.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if they and I'm assuming you're alluding to men have the strength and the ability to enforce these rights. And if they
Yes.
don't enforce these rights, then women don't have the strength or the
Correct.
ability to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So are you saying to me then, I just want to make sure that I'm clear here, that, I mean, Jake, I saw one of your videos where you were boxing and all of that. I love MMA, by the way. So are you saying to me that if a weaker man comes in, so let's just use you, Jake, if a stronger man comes in and he's able to beat you up and you can't do anything to defend yourself against him, does that mean Jake no longer has rights because he can't he
No.
doesn't have the physical capacity to
No.
do anything about
No.
this man
No.
coming in?
So you're not. I'll try again because you're not quite understanding it. So
Well,
when
no,
we
I think I am understanding what
no,
you're
let me
saying.
explain. You wanted clarification, so I'll
Yeah.
clarify. When we say women are the one who have children,
Okay.
that means in general, not all women have children and not all women can have children, but
Correct.
only women can have children. It's the same with men.
I agree.
Not all men can fight in a war. Not all men defend the border, but only men can do those things. So that's where we have to clarify. We can't be stuck in this hyper individualist mindset where we're thinking each and every single person and every exception. The exception proves the rule. So if you look around the world, women don't have rights in every society.
Okay,
They just don't. I'm just explaining how things
but I'm not
are,
here
not how
to
they ought to
defend the
be.
rest of the world. I'm talking about our country, which is
Sure.
the greatest country that has ever existed. I'm sure you will agree. I don't know if you agree. I'm assuming. But America is the greatest country that has ever existed. And it's the greatest country that has ever existed because it was founded upon these values that have found their way into the framework of not only the Constitution, but the Declaration of Independence. And so I'm not very interested in the rest of the world, but just our country. And again, your premise, if your premise is based on strength, the ability, then it has to apply even to the weak man or to the baby who can't defend themselves. And I just find it
What are she talking
just
about?
so full. It's illogical to try to argue
It's the
that
most logical.
I should not have rights because I mean,
I
but
didn't
let's
say
say
you should not. See,
but
this is where
okay.
you're not using logic. I did
that
not
I
say
should
should
not be
not.
able to vote, that I should not be able to vote. Now, I spent
Sure.
10 years in the military. I
Mhm.
trained alongside men in the
Mhm.
military. I was in the foxholes. I got thrown out of planes. I was out there with my I was leading men over hills and under valleys and all over the place. So I was defending. I am very strong. But now does that? But should my rights, whether or not I I have rights be based upon whether or not I can beat you up or I can force you to give them back. No, that's ridiculous.
But
There
you're
are
straw
some
manning my
universal
argument.
vi-
You're straw manning
I
my
don't
argument.
think
Maybe
so.
you
Just
don't.
quickly,
I don't
guys.
think
Just quickly,
so.
guys. One
I'm
second. I
saying
think
what
that
you're
there is
saying.
a little bit of a disconnect going on here. So, Rachel, I'll get you to elucidate this. Just say, for example, Rach, if you can do a clean and press heavier than me in the gym, all right, does
Right.
that mean that you should be able to take my rights away and that I shouldn't have rights?
Of course not. That's not the argument. The
So what is
argument,
the argument? Because
so
you
let
said
me,
it's based
sure.
on
Just
strength.
No, it's based on use of force. So everything
Okay,
in government.
strength, force.
just so we can understand the argument here. Let's
Sure.
make this distinction, Rach.
Okay. And then let's move on because I don't think.
Well, this is a linchpin of the argument. This is probably the foundation of what we're talking about here is that, and as I said, anti-suffrage women, the vast majority of women who did not want women's participation on a large scale in politics argued this very point. And they said, look, God has granted men the monopoly on force. They're the only ones. Even if Kathy's out there with her, only if we had an all-female military and we had an all-female border defense and we had an all-female engineering team trying to build infrastructure,
well.
it wouldn't work. Just like if we tried, So, but even if we help men with those things sometimes, men don't need our help to do that. And historically, they've never needed our help to do that. We can have an all-male military, an all-male police force, an all-male border patrol, and only men building bridges and skyscrapers and roads. That works. So what I'm saying is, as a whole, like I tried to explain, only women can have babies. That doesn't mean every single woman has a baby and that if she doesn't have a baby, she's not a woman. In that same way, only men can use force to enforce rights, anyone's rights.
Okay.
So this
Rachel,
is why this is what separates the criteria when people will say, well, why don't we just start discriminating the vote against people of different races or people of different economic strata or things like that. The difference maker is that the task of government is to defend persons and property, and women cannot do that. That's a task that only men can do. So why should women have equal say in the government when they cannot perform the functions of government and only men can do that?
So are you saying, because, okay, again, just parroting back what you said, that only women can have children. And only men can't have the force to defend. Am I right? Is that what you said? Okay. So let's not retract that. So then therefore only women can have children, but only women can have. And so does that mean is a right? And that because Jake or my husband cannot have, or Andrew cannot have an, then they don't really have anything to say, and it really is my body, my choice?
No, that doesn't apply because the baby because the baby we're talking about has equal DNA from the man as it does the woman.
I mean, no, because even a woman who can have a child, it's not just 100% my DNA, it's my husband's DNA as well.
That's what I just said. Kathy, that's what I just said.
I know.
What I said was the baby has half from each parent.
Because a woman has children, then this is what women do. But only men have the strength to defend. So then that's what men do. What if the baby is a girl? So what if the baby is a girl? What I'm saying is that
that's not analogous. That analogy doesn't work.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
No, it's not analogous.
You have said many times.
I'll explain when you're done.
No, thank you, Rachel. Rachel, you have said many times that only a woman can have children. Only a woman can have children. This is what women do. This is women's work. Men can have it. So men doesn't really, so then that's meant that this is women's territory. And then you said men can defend, men have the strength, men can do what they want to do. So then women really shouldn't be telling men what to do. Okay, now carry that thought to the next level, which is what about now? For everyone who's listening, I'm vehemently opposed to I've always been opposed to, but I'm just using your logic that
you're not using my logic.
I am.
Let's get Rachel to explain.
Once again, I don't know if you're not understanding or maybe you haven't thought things through this way before. The reason these two situations are not analogous is for two reasons. One reason is the fetus in question is equally belonging to the father as it is to the mother because it has half of each of their DNA.
Yes.
And the second defeater for this and why it's not analogous is that if at any time men want to rescind rights, they can, and you have to have the baby, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it just reinforces my point.
So basically, women are just it's like women just have
No.
no voice.
Well-
Women, because a man can take away anything. A man can give me
Yeah.
rights, take away rights, beat me up, not beat me up,
Yeah.
give me food, don't give me food. I mean, like, what do we do, Rachel? I mean, and
This
again,
is yes, we're
and-
facing
one moment,
the
one moment,
fact
one
here.
moment, Rachel, one moment. Allow me to speak, please. That
You've been
again,
speaking way more than I've been
wow.
speaking. You go on long diatribes and then
All
I'm
right, all right. Just not
I
to
don't
get into
think
the
so,
meta
Rachel. I
conversation.
don't
We'll
think
just
so.
try and land the plane a bit quicker. I think that'll be best for everybody.
well,
Kathy,
she doesn't respond to my point. She responds to what she thinks I'm saying, and no matter how much I correct her on what I'm
that's
saying,
why,
she
yeah,
continues to respond to something
No,
else.
Jake, don't say
we've been trying
yeah,
to
because that's
we've been
not
trying
right.
to get the points
I am responding.
elucidated. I think I do understand the points that have been made, but we're just trying to make those distinctions because I'm not sure you've 100% gotten the distinctions. But Kathy, ask the question that you wanted to ask, and then Rach, you can elucidate if you need to.
Uh-oh.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Kathy mad.
I think I've proven my point, but Rachel, why did you say again only women can have children? What was your point behind that?
Because I'm saying that in the same way that not all women can have children, some are born with fertility problems or reasons they can't, or
Right.
some women decide not to, but only women are capable of having children. It's the same, it's analogous to how, even though not every single man fights in a war and not every single man is building infrastructure or defending the border, only men can do that. And because of that, only men should be the ones voting on how the government is run, because men are the only ones that can perform the essential duties of government.
Okay, got it. So only men can defend. So although all men can't defend, only men can defend. So therefore, men should be the ones who make the decisions because they can defend. They have the strength and the power and the muscles to really force their will, and women can't really do anything against that. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not
Okay,
it's
okay,
not
no,
a
okay,
but
okay,
wait,
okay,
I have
no,
to
okay.
clarify.
Well,
It's
no,
not a
because
moral, I'm not saying should. I'm not saying, well, men should enslave us. They don't.
I know
Clearly
they don't. I know they don't. I know,
And
and
at the
that's not what I'm
founding,
saying. And that's not what I'm
at the
saying.
founding,
I'm
you say that
repeating.
you're a
I'm repeating
constitutionalist, and
what
at the
you said.
founding, the founders agreed with
I'm
me.
simply repeating what you said, Rachel.
Mhm.
So you did say that, which is what I've been saying the entire time, which then again leads me to, so only women can have children. All women can have children, but only women can have children.
Yes.
So again, according to your logic, only women can have, all women don't have,
No.
but only women can have.
Yes,
And
only
so
women
then,
can
and so
have.
therefore, I'm gonna take this huge leap across 27 buildings to get to my conclusion, which is what you did, which are only men example. I'm gonna take these huge leapfrogs over here to get to a conclusion that says, therefore, is a right that because only women can do it and men
No,
can't.
that
And it's
doesn't
my body,
follow.
my choice. Yes, it does. Well,
No,
no,
that doesn't follow.
no,
And I'll
but what
explain
doesn't
again why it
follow-
doesn't.
No, thank you. But what doesn't follow, Rachel, is your premise altogether. And I saw that quite
I'm
a
trying
bit.
so hard.
I actually
Well-
don't know if I actually don't, I've actually looked at a lot of these debates, and I'm not sure I actually understand the argument here in terms of
Yeah.
what we're getting at. So,
Well, I think
So
I-
if you could just try and summarize it as quick.
Is not analogous though, because as I said, we're
No.
talking about killing a child, and the
Right.
child is owned equally by the man who gave 50% of his DNA to help create it. So it wouldn't be analogous to say that because only women can have, they should be the only ones who have a say, my body, my choice, no uterus, no opinion. No, that is not,
Okay.
that does not logically follow for two reasons. One is the fetus does not only belong to the woman and we're killing the fetus. Yes, it's
Okay.
in her body, but that's just its location. It
Okay.
still belongs equally to the man. And the second reason is if men don't grant you rights, you don't have rights. So
Okay.
it's not analogous to my defense and
Right.
infrastructure
Okay.
argument.
So again, allow me to say what I said at the very beginning. I am not here to defend the baked in lies of feminism. My entire life has been doing the opposite when I find out what a feminist principle may be. I have done all that I can to do the actual reverse, and that is how, again, I've been able to build a life that I'm extremely happy with. But again, are you familiar with the fallacy non sequitur? Non sequitur.
Yes, I
Okay,
am.
great. Because I find that you do that in your book. Now, you did an amazing job in your book, Rachel, on explaining the occult aspect behind feminism, double clicking on the original suffragists, and and all the things that they were up to. And I mean, I found that part of your book to be, I mean, just very educational. I'm very
Well,
grateful for
thank
that
you.
piece of it.
Yeah, thank you.
But then there would be other times in the book that you would make a premise, and then you would do non sequitur, right? Fallacy. And for those who don't know what that
Sequitur.
that is simply,
Sequitur.
and the math is
No,
It's Latin for girl, you're just doing too much.
some things that is too
a
many.
non sequitur is
One
exactly what
moment.
I said you were
One
doing,
moment.
where
No,
the
no,
premise does
no.
not, the
That's
conclusion does not
no,
follow
your
from the premise.
I didn't even make a premise except to try to understand your original premise. I was trying to answer your question, but in order to answer your question, I wasn't making a premise. I was saying, well, then if this is what you believe, then then the next obvious step would be this other thing. I wasn't making a premise. I haven't made a
But
premise yet.
But I
I
pointed
haven't
out that
made a premise yet. I was just trying to understand yours. But you start with the premise that says women are emotional and their maternal instincts get weaponized and
that's okay.
manipulated.
Let's
One
try to
moment.
stick to what we're
Wait,
talking
I-
about
Yeah.
here in the
I'm
debate.
We
talking
do have
about-
to
we're
try and
talking
land the
about
plane.
all
kinds of
wait,
other
one
stuff.
Just quickly,
moment.
guys.
I'm talking about the book.
When the moderator speaks, everybody
Okay.
has to be silent. Okay.
I agree.
So just quickly, non sequitur. I've just looked up the definition of it.
It
Latin
doesn't follow.
phrase that translated to that it does not follow. Okay. So the premise,
Right, which is what I
conclusion,
said.
the conclusion doesn't follow from the premise. Okay.
And
So
that's what I'm saying you're doing.
just quickly, are
No,
we
that's
going
what
now
you're
into
doing.
critiques? We're going
can
into book
demonstrate
critiques
it.
now.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that what we're going into? Because it looks like we're
No,
going into
no,
something
no,
new
No,
here.
we have to.
No,
We still
no,
haven't gotten
that's not
past
what I'm
force
saying.
doctrine.
No,
Yeah.
but what? No, I'm not critiquing the book. I said I really enjoyed the book. I've read the book, and I enjoyed learning a lot about the history of the book. I would encourage anyone to get your book. While you're at it, let me plug my own book. You can get my book.
Muting it. Muting it while she plugs her book. Muting it.
Read your book.
Okay, there you go.
Especially the historical aspect of it. I did not know all of those different things. Now I know it, and that too has come. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just really good. I
Mortal Kombat sequitur. Non sequitur wins.
just did when we started off here of making a premise, and the premise of why we're here on whether or not women should vote is your premise that I've heard you say in multiple interviews, what I read in your book as well, is that women are emotional beings
No,
with these maternal
the
instincts.
argument, but that's not the argument I just made, and I've got to stop you because you keep
Okay.
going off and reaching for other things.
Okay, go ahead.
The question I asked is, so let's take this an argument, for example, because you keep thinking this is analogous and it's not, and you're completely missing the
Okay.
point of the force doctrine argument, which is
Mhm.
if men say tomorrow, hey, ladies, no more for you, we cannot do anything about it. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm not making a judgment claim as
And
to
now
whether or
you
not
say
that
we
should.
can't do
Wait,
anything
just
about
can I
it
finish?
because we
Can I
can't
just
beat them
finish?
up.
Yeah, you
I
gotta
haven't
be able to
able
finish
a
'cause-
single sentence this whole time.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be the case. I'm saying this is the case. The truth of the matter is that only men can perform the essential functions of government outlined in the Constitution, which is why the founders did not grant women voting rights, did not grant women full political enfranchisement. And I think that is the correct logical position, because unless you can explain to me why women should have equal say with men when we do not have to sign up for the draft, we cannot perform the essential functions of government, which is defending persons or property, why are we therefore entitled? Because a right is an entitlement absent duty. We don't have the same duty to protect and defend the nation men do. So why should we be entitled to that same right to vote on how it's governed?
And I
That's my
disagree with
argument.
you. And I disagree with you.
But
And
do you have an argument as
yeah,
to why?
well, and I'm telling you, I mean, and I actually started off, but you did say did not grant women what was that thought?
The founders did not grant us
That the
voting
founder
rights.
did not grant women voting rights. But the
Mhm.
founders did not grant men who did not own property either. Should we go back to that?
I think that would be one consideration. However,
Okay.
now
So if you are
well, let
not
me
privileged,
answer.
We do have to let
Answer.
when the question's asked, we
I'll
have to
be
make sure
short.
that we let
I'll
them
be brief.
elucidate it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be
Go for it.
brief, but you asked the question. So I think that was good at the time when we had a very low population density and most people had to own land in order to live. Now we have mega cities and giant urban centers. So I would say a similar principle that would apply better to modern times would be net zero taxpayers. I think that if you do not have skin in the game, if you are taking more from the system than you are getting, or that you are putting in, then you should not have a vote. So I
yeah.
would limit suffrage more to just no women. But my specific argument for women is just that, and you still haven't answered to the specific argument. You'll go to something else and say, well, what about this?
I'm not.
And that
I'm not. I'm trying to understand what it is that you're saying because it doesn't make sense to me, and I can't make it make sense when it doesn't make sense. And so,
well, then
and there's
just
a lot of
simply answer
fallacies
this
on it.
question. No, there's no
Well, you
fallacy
keep
in me
asking me
saying,
questions. Can we move on to another question? How much time have we spent on
okay,
this? 53 minutes on this one thing, and I think I
it's the crux
basically
of
have
the
shown
argument.
you
But
How about this?
go
I've got
ahead.
an
that
idea.
it's too slippery. It's too
All right.
slippery what you're saying. It's too many holes, and it doesn't. If it
There's
doesn't
no
apply,
holes.
if it
It's
doesn't
I think
apply
airtight.
universally, you have all of these
The whole point
exceptions.
is that there are no
ladies,
holes.
Okay,
ladies,
go ahead.
ladies, ladies,
Go ahead, Jake.
ladies.